What I would like to go over today is a little bit about portfolios. So, as you start going through, whether that be higher levels of education or whether that be actually creating work for a job, keeping a portfolio is a good idea. Portfolios are important both for potential employers as well as schools that may be interested, or, well, schools that you're interested in that you are hoping are also interested in you. So there are a variety of different portfolios out there. There are lots of collections of portfolios too that you can find that show some pretty impressive things out there, and you can look into some of those as well. I do want to caution you when you are looking into some of these different portfolios, if you decide to, be mindful that these people, they do this work. They're doing whatever work that they're showing off, 40 hours a week for years at a time, right? So they're going to have some amazing work, and you're just getting started into starting to really create things and hopefully starting to look into directions that you want to develop your future in. So you're not going to have equivalent levels of work, but you need to start somewhere, right? And newer jobs or jobs for people who are newer into the field and looking into schools and stuff, they're not going to be expecting, some of the sorts of things that you're going to see from these, top portfolios or portfolios that everybody should see or whatever, right? So it's going to take time to build some of that, right? And it's fine that you're not there yet, right? Start small, start with what you have, and as you move further into the areas you want, you can start to show off more impressive work as you are able to create more impressive work. So there are a ton of different ways that you can get started making your portfolio. I'm going to talk about a couple different places here and there. Of course, there's way more. And then after that, I'll show you Google Sites, which is what I recommend to get started on. So like I said, there's a bunch out there. There's a lot of ones that will sort of do stuff for you. This is one that's actually sort of based around education, right? And so you put stuff in and it sort of builds one for you. This one for me wasn't entirely accurate actually, because the way that it took some of my information, I would need to modify it and change it. Like, I didn't major in physics. I have a degree from the physics and astronomy department, but it's not a degree in physics itself. It's just from that department. So as you fill in some of the blanks for some of the ones that make things for you, you do need to look into how is it actually using that data, and you might have to modify it a little bit to fix some of that. So this is one that's geared more towards students. I was playing with it some just to sort of see what sort of things it had in there and what it sort of looked like. There are tons of others. So while this is geared towards students, there are also some that are geared towards like professionals, towards employees, towards people looking for a job or looking for people who are possibly a good fit for jobs they have. So LinkedIn is probably the most famous one. And honestly, I get a good amount of interest from my LinkedIn account. I get more interest from my LinkedIn account than I do from my actual portfolios that I will show you guys in a few minutes. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't create other portfolios. That doesn't mean that LinkedIn is the only answer. I'm not actively looking for a job. I'm not actively trying to promote myself. So, if you have a portfolio and you're not promoting yourself, well, then it's not going to get a whole lot of publicity, right? If you're not sending it, if you don't have it on business cards that you're giving to people, then how are people going to find your portfolio, right? So LinkedIn, because it is so widely used, people are able to find you through searches, people are able to find you through other connections, right? And so I've gotten a good amount of interest here, whereas I haven't on my regular portfolios. So you do have to actually create an account to see a full portfolio on here, but you get to include stuff like different groups that you're involved in, different organizations, different accomplishments you've had, education. You can upload certificates, stuff like that. This does tie into the learning platform lynda.com, which has been, well, which lynda.com and LinkedIn Learning are now like owned by the same company. And so because of that, oh, would you just go to the site? Because of that, they do have like a tie-in where you can earn certificates on lynda.com, and then you can have them show up directly on your LinkedIn portfolio. And if you're really into technology or creative areas, you should probably look into this when you have time. The start of the school year may not be the best time for that, but maybe during like winter break or summer break or some of those, that'd be a great time to do this. Lynda.com is not free, but a lot of public libraries do have access to it through the library card, including ours. So I can give you more information about that later if you're interested. So next one. Portfolios, like I said already, are a pretty big deal, and not only are there specific sites for portfolios, but some of the creative softwares and stuff are also helping or trying to get people to use their services too to create their own portfolios. So this site here and this one are both associated with Adobe. So Behance is free. I believe myportfolio.com requires you to actually have an Adobe subscription, but these two actually, if you were to look at both of them for me, they have a lot of the same contents because they're sort of tied together. When you work on the system for this one, if you have an account, you can just push it straight out to this one too, and you end up having sort of like two portfolios, two different ways for people to find your content through the same platform. It also can have sort of two different looks, right? Like this is a different look than this one is, right? But they have more or less the same thing. This also used to be a separate company that Adobe acquired, so sort of similar to how Lynda and LinkedIn are now the same company, or the same company owns both. Sort of the same thing here. Adobe went and purchased this one. I'll get back to this in just a minute, so I'm not going to close that one yet. This is a super old one that I was playing with when Google Sites was new, that I showed with students, I think like, I don't know, 8 years ago or so. So there's way too much stuff on here, but we were kind of playing with the idea of also how do you create a resume and how do you show some of that stuff off. So this is what Google Sites used to look like, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about what Google Sites looks like now, right? And you saw a glimpse of that when I closed the tab earlier. This is sort of what Google Sites looks like now, and it's much, much better. I'm still putting this one together, and I'm going to show you a few things about Google Sites as we get to that in the next video. So what should a portfolio have? Obviously, a portfolio should have work that you're interested in showing off, right? Two different things here. One, it should be work that you are proud of and that you want people to see. Now, why you're proud of it can vary. It might be that you're really proud of the progress you made. It could be that you're really proud of the end product. It just varies depending on what you were doing. Now, also, when you create a portfolio entry, when you create work that you're going to have in your portfolio, there's different ways to do it too. A lot of times people just sort of create a gallery of their work, and I have done a good amount of that too. I don't always show off the parts that I need to. So we'll talk more about that as we go along as well. But like if I click on one of these, and this actually was a coding project, I have a little bit of information, and I have a little bit of examples of the program running, which it's loading a little bit slow, but you can see here this part in the middle is actually what was programmed, and then this is a transparent image that has been put over the top. And as I'm moving the mouse around in that recording, you can see how the color is changing inside of the TV set. So that was actually a coded piece, right? But I don't really have much information here. So I mean, this is okay, but it's not great. Let's see if I have maybe a better example. This one may be better. This was the design project for the school a while back. It's a little bit better. It talks a little bit about the size, what was needed, some of the requirements. It has some of the examples, a little blurb about the product, right? So that's a little bit better. It could still be quite a bit better, but it's an improvement, right? And then let's see if I have anything else in here that I can show that might work well. This one could be good. This was one that I created when I was working on my degree. Okay, so I've got some information here. I've got some of the original idea work that I was doing, some of my sketches. This is a much better entry, right? So this gives people a better idea of actually what I was creating and the process I went through, some of the prototyping images that I was working on, some pictures showing it actually running on an iPad, right? The pictures aren't great, but you should get the idea. Or you can see the actual prototype icon here, and then, you know, interacting with it there. And then a few more updates, final prototype, some pictures of some of the contents, etc. So this is a much better entry. Some of all the different graphics that I created to create that, and then the actual result of it, right? So this is a pretty good entry for a portfolio. A lot of the other ones, I mean, they're nice, but you don't really get the idea of what actually I was doing, right? So when you are working on a portfolio, whether it be for a school you're applying to or for a job, something like this is going to be a whole lot more successful than just something like this that has a bunch of pretty photos, right? The photos are nice, but like, what was the point? What was I trying to show? What did I need to do for that actual assignment, that job? You don't know, right? So this is a whole lot more meaningful, and that's what you should be going for. So that's a little bit of overview about portfolios and what sort of the aim is. In the next video, I'll actually talk a little bit and show a little bit about how you can create one pretty easily, even if you're new to computers.